Well, let's talk about this game so far because the Canucks, they didn't look great to start. Another slow start, which will probably give them a down for that. But at the end of the day, they kind of turned things around.
Well, it took some big saves from Demko to get this team turned around. Definitely wants that first goal back, but that is why Demko is a star goaltender, is his ability to shake that off, a bad goal like that, and then stand on his head and make some incredible saves and absolutely keep the team in it when we needed him to. That fourth line had been grinding real hard the whole period, so good to see them get a goal. Nice to see Höglander get on the score sheet there. It was, the last 10 minutes, the Canucks really kind of got their feet under them, started to sort things out a little bit. Obviously, our breakout still struggles with Hughes being out of the lineup, and now Brisebois has come in tonight, so that has changed the pairings up a little bit as well, which will cause a bit of confusion in the first little bit. But it really looks like everyone's settled into their lines in the last 10 minutes there. Boy, oh boy, has the standard for cross-checking changed in the NHL. How many games have we seen in a row now where the Canucks get the softest cross-checking penalties we've probably ever seen in the history of hockey?
Even Ray Ferrar's comment right after is like, if that's a cross check, then there should be 12 other calls this game.
Yeah, I mean, Miller's arms were already fully extended almost when he made contact with Tanev, who was losing his balance and falling over. I mean, if that's cross-checking in a contact sport, then I mean, from now on, you just got to keep one hand on the stick and start shoving, I guess, because if that's what's going to be called, which seems to be the norm lately, then we're going to have to be more careful. Luckily, it seems like they realized that it was a bit of a weak call and did give us a pretty weak hooking call in return. So hopefully we can capitalize here early in the second and get ahead here.
I think the only way I can really justify either one of those calls was the fact that it turned into a scoring chance. Like if JT Miller had the chance, then he'd get a breakaway off of that. I mean, and then you're just talking about, well, then we have to talk about these things as situational, because same thing on the hooking call where it was enough to like prevent a scoring chance. So maybe that's kind of where the referees are coming from. So that's the only way I can maybe turn it into an up, where the refs are kind of like managing it based on situations. But like we've talked about this, we want it consistent. It should be the same no matter what what happens after that.
Well, and that's what happens is you start to put it at the discretion of the referee and make it situational instead of making it black and white like it is written in the rule book. That's where I get issue with, and then you get inconsistency. You get officials trying to control games, and instead of just letting the game play out the way it should play out. If you're going to call that cross check, fine, but call 2 minutes on Tanev for embellishment, because he went down far too easy for an NHL skater.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Even like we'll talk about it in a minute, but watching some of the World Junior Championship, man, the embellishment is out of control in that tournament. Even from the Americans, I was watching the day while I was at work, and it was like, they're winning like 7-1, and they're still snapping their heads back like they've just been shot, right? Like it's something that the league is going to have to start having that hard look at moving forward, and getting those those people who are flagged as divers, get them fined, and then have them be like, listen, no matter what happens to you, you're never going to get a call because we know that you're a diver.
Yeah, and it seems to be like a generational thing that's happening right now. It's getting really bad. It's like watching soccer sometimes.
Yeah, nobody. If I wanted to watch soccer, we got the Whitecaps in town, and nobody wants to watch the Whitecaps. So
No one wants to watch soccer. We're here to watch hockey.
Well, then even like we got Big Hog in chat, who just mentioned that he is actually he actually plays provincially out on the East Coast in lacrosse, and it's like maybe we just need to send the refs over and watch some lacrosse games, because you want to see real cross checks, you go watch a lacrosse game, because that stuff is nuts.
Yeah, cross checking, slashing, all of it. It's pretty rough and intense, that sport.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Demko an up and a down. He gets a down for the goal that he let in, and he gets an up for keeping his cool and getting us back into the game.
Yep, for sure. I'm going to give an up to Dakota Joshua. He's been lacking that emotion that we have seen out of him so often. The thing that made him successful last year was getting into the game physically and getting under the skin of the other team. So to see him getting a little more into it and getting into it a bit with Brandon Montour there.
Mhm.
That's good to see, and him getting a little more physical. We need that stuff out of him to have him be effective. And going forward, I hope now he's feeling more healthy. He's feeling more where he felt last year, and we can see the Dakota Joshua that was burying goals for us at important moments.
Yeah. So everything's going according to a plan for the Canucks so far, getting scored on first and then scoring late in the first to tie things back up to come into the second period even.
There you go. And then coming out of the intermission on the power play and get a quick power play goal here. Maybe Myers is the key to the power play one here, and we get some shots through.
At the same time, I'm a little scared to be up by any, maybe we be try and get up by 4 goals against Seattle this time. It'll make us easier to win.
Yep. And we need guys to just stop trying to do too much. Carson Soucy there, when he carried the puck in, goes for the toe drag. He's not that guy. Just shoot the puck. Don't go for the fancy stuff. Just don't overthink it. I know all these guys want to contribute and they want to help and they want to push hard because Hughes is out and they want to do all these things to make the team more successful. But what is going to make the team successful is these guys playing to their strengths and just doing what they can do better and not trying to do things that don't even fit their skill set. So little things like that, they just need to be more conscious of. And obviously, everyone on this team is squeezing the stick a little tight right now because we all know it's not going the way we want it to go. We have injuries and adversity, and obviously tons of controversy constantly with locker room rumors about trades and rifts and things like that. So.
And we'll get into that in a couple talking points here because some interesting comments coming out from a former teammate of JT Miller and Pedersen.
Mm-hmm.
Practice. We talk about practice. I mean, maybe we should have talked more about practice. Canada, World Juniors getting bounced tonight, 4-3 by Czechia, getting scored on with 40 seconds left to go in the game. And then I was reading today and I sent you the article.
Mm-hmm.
And I never played hockey growing up, but like, what is the logic in Canada's coach canceling all these practices? Because if you lose to Latvia and you cancel a practice, like, can you find any logic in what that coach was doing? Because by all accounts, it seems like he just completely lost that roster.
Absolutely no logic in it. This could go down as some of the worst coaching and player selection in the history of Hockey Canada and this tournament. I don't know. The decision to cancel practices in a tournament like this, when you're trying to build chemistry in a short amount of time, like that's when you do it, is at the practices. Your power play suffering, you're struggling to find chemistry with all your lines, so you cancel your practices and your game day skates. It's like the exact opposite of what you should be doing. If your theory behind that is to keep these kids rested, these kids are 16 to 18 years old. They don't need rest. Like these kids are running on adrenaline. You push them to their absolute limit because they're representing their country. This is the biggest tournament they'll ever play until they get to like the NHL and things like that. And so to do that, it just made no sense. And it didn't make any sense when Hockey Canada selected him as the coach anyways. The Ottawa 67s are 13th overall in the OHL. They're one game above 500. It's not like they're some powerhouse team, and he's not been a coach of the year out there.
Yeah.
And, along with leaving players out like Carter Yakimchuk, Zane Pareka, Beckett Seneke, the list goes on. These kids are sitting at home. He then scratches Carson Rakoff, who's been one of the better players of the tournament for an elimination game.
Yeah.
It just every single decision he made as a coach seemed like the wrong decision. And for whatever reason, Hockey Canada just seemed to be okay with it.
Did you see his coach's challenge?
Yeah, his coach's challenge.
How do you think that's going to be reversed? The guy slams into the goalie in international hockey. Like you're never getting that called back.
No, I mean, you touch the crease in international hockey and it's going to be a no goal. So it's just a very poor decision, and it led to a lack of discipline in the players, which showed again tonight. As soon as they tie it up, another penalty late in the game and a power play goal against is the difference maker that sends them home. So they couldn't stay out of the box. They couldn't find chemistry, and they left too much talent watching at home.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the one positive thing we can talk about in this today. Well, I mean, we talked a little bit about ups, but Brock Boeser has now tied Mr. Alex Burrows for 10th all time on the Canucks goal scoring list. What does that mean for him? I mean, I should also point out that he's 69th on the list for career playoff goals too. Nice.
Giggity.
So his next goal will put him as alone in the top 10 for the Vancouver Canucks in all-time goal scoring. What does that mean for him?
I think it's good. Considering the shortened seasons that he's kind of had to play, his career's basically been hampered with injuries right from the get-go. He's starting to show more signs of elite scoring, like last year. It's good, but also I think what Alvin was talking about, another point in his interview he did, is that Besser is another one of those guys now that he's at that age where he needs to show more and he needs to show that he can be a difference maker and he can take charge of a game when it's needed. He's one of those core leaders now, and he's got to start pushing a little more. It's all well and good to start reaching these milestones and things. And of course, sometimes it's just a number of games played type of thing and a longevity thing. Um, but obviously, we all know what Besser's capable of. Um, and hopefully he can get back on his horse and keep pushing like he was last year and showing more of that 40 goal scorer than more of a 20 goal scorer that is a little streaky and inconsistent.
Yeah, he's been showing it lately. 6 goals in his last 5 games, so looking good so far. It looks like he might be starting to get things back after being out for a little bit with that head injury.
Yeah, which is great to see. Obviously, he's in a contract year, and we heard Alvin's comments about how that's a little difficult as he's going to want X amount, and the Canucks obviously are going to be a bit tough with cap coming up, and who else they have to extend in Hughes in a couple years, and obviously needing to shore up the blue line a bit more. So it could be interesting coming into the trade deadline, depending on where we are in the standings and what happens with Besser's future.
Yeah. So we're back onto the negativity. Brad Richardson on a podcast. I would play the clip. I think last time I played a clip like this, I got demonetized, so we're not going to play the clip. But if you can just kind of summarize what he was saying in regards to JT Miller and Elias Pettersson as teammates.
Yeah, so he went on the Missing Curfew podcast, the one that's hosted by Shane O'Brien and Scotty Upshaw. He was just saying about how he was a teammate when Petey and Miller were both on the Canucks as well. And he had taken JT Miller aside at that time already and said he was too hard on the kid. And that it was going to have a negative effect, and how he isn't the type to elevate his game. He's the type to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's been an ongoing theme since Brad Richardson has been a player here, then I don't know that management has done enough to help this relationship, as well as JT or PD haven't done enough in themselves to kind of move forward and mature. And we heard those comments yesterday, and then today we had Bo Horvat in an interview again saying, it does get blown out of proportion. Yes, guys have issues, and there are always going to be issues, but he said JT is just an intense guy who expects the most out of his teammates and expects the most out of himself. What's difficult, though, is JT maybe should focus some of that energy on himself. It's been 10 games since he scored a goal, and it's been 20 games since he scored a goal on a goalie. So it's not like he's turning heads and lighting the lamp right now. So to be pointing fingers at other guys and calling them out and calling them a baby or not calling them tough enough, I mean, that's fine if you're leading by example. But if you're not, if your game isn't elevated to a point where you are scoring 40 goals, then maybe you need to have a different approach and be a little more sympathetic to someone who is pushing to try and elevate his game, but has a different approach to it than you do. He's also 5 years younger than JT, so there's going to be a bit of a gap there in the way they approach the game. And so both of these guys want the same thing. They want to win. They want to be the best they can be for their team. But at the end of the day, they need to find a way to talk to each other about it and make each other better instead of dragging each other down, because that really just sounds like what's happening is that Miller just wants him to be better. PD responds negatively, which then Miller responds negatively too. And it's just a vicious cycle that keeps going around and around and around. And at the end of the day, it will likely lead to forcing management's hand into a trade that no one wants to see happen. I mean, realistically, we want both of these guys to play the best they can in a Canucks jersey. Who are we going to get to replace either of these guys at the market value that we want? It's going to be tough. So at the end of the day, we really just need to see management let these guys get through it, or they need to pull them aside and say, this is how it's going to be, or whatever. Maybe they need a specific coach or a life coach or something for these guys, but they got to find a way to take that rumor, put it to bed, and move forward. And that falls on the organization and the PR group. So hopefully we can get moving on from this and it doesn't lead to a trade. But obviously those rumors are going to continue until we see either some improvement in these guys' games or something happen through the organization.
Yeah, and I think you kind of saw some comments coming out from, sources in the organization that essentially said that they've both been told to either figure it out or you're going to get shipped out. And we can confirm that because Alvin said anything's possible.
Exactly. And I mean, he's said that before, that anything's possible. And of course, you don't want the drama of trying to move someone with a no movement clause who has been very vocal about how he wants to play for this city and this is his home and he doesn't want to move. He doesn't want to leave. And then on the other side, you have a young player who has yet to show his best and has a very high ceiling that we all know he is capable of reaching, and to take the risk of seeing him reach that somewhere else, that's a tough pill to swallow as well. So I can see why management has been so patient with these two guys, but obviously we need this to move forward so we can get to our goal of winning a Stanley Cup.
Save the Abbey Canucks for the post-game show. We'll get back. First period's or second period's about to get going, so we'll see you at the end of the game, brother.
Sounds good. We'll talk then.
Nothing is perfect.